Hey, thank you so much for joining us for this week's From the Field Farm Chat with Idaho Wheat. I am Brittany. I'm the Executive Director of the Idaho Wheat Commission. And we are joined today by Joe Sowers, who is the Regional Director for U.S. Wheat, and he is located in Singapore. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, but then we'll talk a little bit about the trends in Asia and what Idaho wheat producers can do to continue to meet those demands. So Joe, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Ryan. It's great to be with you this morning and this evening, your time. We really appreciate being invited to participate in this podcast and tell you a little bit about the exciting region of South and Southeast Asia. As you said, I am based in Singapore. My title is officially Regional Vice President for South and Southeast Asia. And we feel like this is one of the most exciting and dynamic regions in the world for U.S. wheat. Not to bury the headline, to start off with the headline here, we account for nearly a quarter of all U.S. wheat exports in the world. It can vary quite a bit. As far as the money part, we range from about 1 to 1.5 billion U.S. dollars every year, depending on the price of wheat and how much volume we're hitting. We have seen some significant uptrends in sales. For a decade, we were cycling up, maybe from 14% of global sales to, as I mentioned, 25%. And then, of course, the disaster crops we saw in 2021 and 22, we saw a pretty significant downdraft, a 40% decline, which hit pretty hard. But luckily, last year we're kind of rebounding a bit in production, and this year it seems like that trend is continuing for the most part. So we see some rebound in the region and of course around the world. So of our top 10 markets in the world for U.S. wheat, after the U.S. itself, we have 4 of the top 10 in our region. The number 2 market in the world, export market, is the Philippines, which is about, well, just to say it, we mill more non-U.S. wheat in the United States than we mill non-U.S. wheat in the Philippines. We have amazing market share there, above 90% some years. So it's tremendous. That market is the number 2 market. Then we have Thailand at number 7. We also do good market share there, above 50%. And then Indonesia is a giant market. It's the 4th largest population in the world. We get a small market share, but it's such a big market that actually makes it the number 8 market in the world for U.S. wheat in the world. And then we have Vietnam, which is a really quickly growing market. It's super dynamic and an up-and-comer for sure. So again, very strong dynamic markets out here in South and Southeast Asia.
And for anyone listening who maybe is not super great at geography, what are the countries in South and Southeast Asia that you cover, Joe?
Sure. It's actually a giant region. We cover all of Oceania, although we don't do much work there. And that would go from there through Australia, up through the Philippines, all the way through Southeast Asia. And then actually the westernmost point of our coverage is Afghanistan, Pakistan. But again, those are producing regions, so we don't really have much market potential there. The majority of our work kind of ends on the western side in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. And then on the eastern side, essentially the Philippines and Indonesia, maybe into Papua New Guinea as far as potential markets. The majority of our business and interest is in Southeast Asia, and those would be, of course, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam. Again, that's the Philippines is about half of our business out here, and then those Southeast Asian countries are 90% of what we do. And that's, again, the majority of our opportunity and activity. I guess I could tell you a little bit about why we are so optimistic about growth out here is the populations are just so amazing. Like The Philippines, for example, one of the fastest growing large countries in the world, 120 million people live there. And to give you an idea of the density, it's about 50% bigger than Idaho, the Philippines, as far as land area. So Idaho has 200,000 square kilometers, and the Philippines 300. And the population is what, 118 million more. I mean, maybe 90 times bigger population than Idaho. So it's kind of hard to describe the density, but that's true around the region. Indonesia is the fourth largest population in the world. Java, the island that Jakarta is on, is the most populated island in the world. So these are giant populations, and they're growing super fast. Populations are very young. The median age, meaning 50% above and 50% below, in the Philippines, 24 years of age is our median. Median population, 24 years of age. I feel like I live in a college town when I'm there. Everybody's young. Around the region, it gets a little bit older as we go around. So Indonesia at 30 years of age. And then our outlier to the upside, our very slow population growth and much older population, is Thailand. And that one looks more like Korea, China, the U.S., slower population growth and a little bit older. But in theory, that population growth is supposed to drive strong economic growth, and it has. Our two fastest growing countries in the region economically, the Philippines and Vietnam, are both growing at 6% per year. Of course, from a lower base than the U.S. and other countries, but still just extremely strong growth. Indonesia at 5%. So very quick economic growth and strong potential. And at those high growth rates, if it's distributed at all, then it would mean higher per capita incomes, which gives people the flexibility to spend on different kinds of foods that they decide what they want to eat more with their brain than with their wallet, right? So we're seeing a diversification of diets away from rice into more wheat-based foods. And the specific ones that they really are going into are the ones where the U.S. has strong market share, which is breads. That's our hard red spring wheat really dominates that, but also hard red winter quite strong in Thailand and Indonesia. And then soft white wheat for cookies, crackers, and cakes. So those products are growing quickly. We are U.S. Wheat Associates is trying to leverage that growth and compound it. We have a few social media campaigns to try to get the population to increase consumption of those foods, which we're seeing in Thailand and Vietnam. We just started campaigns this year, but we've had a long-standing one in the Philippines just to increase consumption overall, but also focusing on these products where U.S. wheat classes really stand out, and the populations really need that U.S. wheat classes to make cookies, crackers, cakes, and breads. Now, as far as per capita consumption of wheat-based foods, we're seeing growth around the region. We extremely strong over the decade from 2010 to COVID. It was about a 40% increase, dramatic. After COVID, we kind of dipped down a little bit as the economies kind of were lagging, but we're back into a growth pattern right now. So we're extremely happy about that. Now, as far as what Idaho could do, Idaho produces 5 classes of U.S. wheat. We love them all. The biggest one out of the north up there is obviously the soft white wheat that you all make an amazing product. We saw that downtick in 21 and 22, which was too bad. But we have been here before. We've seen poor production years. I guess we saw 2014 and 15 were another 2 years with a pretty bad production decline. But then the subsequent 5 years were way above. So we're hoping that we're going back into that way above time. The land area in soft white country is nice and stable, just the way we want it. It's just Mother Nature. If we get the rain or not, we'll decide on how much production we get. So I feel like everything's setting up that we're doing a lot better. Now, I know prices have been poor for the farmer. And it's actually ironic that the only people that like low prices worse than farmers are actually the millers. Because the millers out here, even though they're paying less for their wheat, they get very competitive when we're in a low price environment. So actually, flour prices are at a loss right now. So I hope, not hoping for a disaster in one of our competitor countries, but I hope we see some uptick in prices so that we can allow the competitiveness in the region here in the milling industry to decline a bit, and people start to make a little money out here, people to start to make a little money back in the U.S. That would be good for us all. Then the other class is hard red spring. We're seeing a little rebound. We'd like to see more of that. Obviously, that would be great. And if you guys could convince everybody to grow more hard white wheat, there's always a lot of demand for that in
That's
Asia.
the goal.
We appreciate all your efforts on that, Brittany, Ryan. It was nice. We brought some bakers back to Idaho. I guess it was 2 years ago now, and they really enjoyed it. Lots of great photos with you out there, Ryan. It looks like you had a great time. I was sad to miss it.
It was good. It was good.
It was good, huh? I guess the trends I see moving forward are that as you know, the biofuels with soybeans and are following corn. So we'll see continued demand for soybean acreage. I personally hope our acreage doesn't fall much below where we are. I think rotational crop will maintain some of that. But I think it does actually, believe it or not, give us some opportunities, because the U.S., we're not very strong at container exports. We don't, for some reason, we just have never built that part of our marketing system up, and we're good at bulk. And I think the upside of this most recent increase in demand for soybean oil will increase the exports of soybean meal, probably out here, and we can get some combo shipments in, so smaller quantities of U.S. wheat in with that soybean meal, and we can get it around the region into smaller chunks. So I see some big potential there. And of course, as you all have heard, only 6 weeks ago, I guess, was announced that the U.S. cultivation of genetically modified wheat has been approved. So we're looking at that with some optimism that our trade policy group is going to be able to shepherd this product into the market out here, that we will get approvals around the region, so that we can become not only the most reliable supplier of wheat, but also the most affordable as well. So I think moving forward, we have a lot of potential. I think our historic markets of North Asia, their populations are kind of declining in Japan and Korea and Taiwan. They're stable to declining populations, and Southeast Asia will be able to pick up the torch moving forward. I'm optimistic that our countries out here will accept genetically modified wheat. Indonesia, for example, they consume a daily soybean product known as tempeh, and that is basically 100% genetically modified soybeans. So I think they're more friendly to it. The Philippines in the past has been as well. I feel like our true outlier here that will be more challenging is Thailand, and ironically, they've already accepted it for food and feed. So I think accepted it in theory. Now we'll just see how this all goes. It's 6 weeks in. There's still so much to be seen, but I think we have U.S. Wheat Associates has a great trade policy team that will make this happen. I have great confidence in them, and we have, of course, 2 regional offices in this region. We have one in Manila. You might know Joe Bippert, formerly with the Washington Grain Commission. He is my colleague out in Manila, and then here in Singapore. So we will be working very diligently to make this genetically modified acceptance go well. Which we remain optimistic. So that's what we see in the region out here. I don't know what else to tell you. Have any questions, other ones for us, Brittany and Ryan?
Joe, with going back to the comment of the growing population over in your area, I know with that will come a higher demand with regard to wheat imports. Do you see U.S. wheat positioned to continue to meet those demands?
Well, we have a long history out here. We're turning 50 years old in the Singapore office now, and over 60, I think it's 63 years this year, and our Manila office was opened by Western Wheat Associates, our legacy organization. So we've been out here a very long time. and training bakers especially how to use our wheat classes in their products. So as I mentioned, the demand for these very specific end products that are that we're seeing increases in consumption of, especially of bread, cookies, crackers, and cakes. We have many training programs, specifically in our in Bangkok, Thailand. We collaborate with a school there, so we are training millers and bakers how to make these products and how U.S. wheat is superior in them. We have 4 courses every year. We have 3 courses every year, and then we're adding a 4th in 2025 called Extended Shelf Life Technology. So we're getting ahead of the game, I guess. Trying to skate to where the puck is, as they say in hockey, because we feel that the industry is moving toward this extended shelf life. They are trying to bakers are trying to get their products into more remote areas that lack road infrastructure, that lack port infrastructure. So it takes longer to get our products there in order to service those markets as they shift out of rice into wheat-based foods, into these products where U.S. wheat classes have an advantage. And that's one. We also do a cookie and cracker course that just finished up last week. We have a 6-week course in baking science in general, and that would be more focused on the bread products, frozen dough, and we have an advanced premix course, that all of which really require U.S. wheat to make, and that's been our focus, and how to leverage this increasing consumption of those products and make sure that we are making our way in. And I think the payoff is clear. I think when making up a quarter of all U.S. wheat exports, it shows that investment the U.S. wheat farmer has made over 60 plus years has paid off. So that growing population, yes, that's going to increase overall consumption, and then of the products where we stand out, yes, we will also see increased demand.
Well, Joe, I'm happy to report that according to the September USDA NAS reports, which you take with a bit of a grain of salt, but they are estimating that Idaho's production exceeds 100 million bushel this year. So we have recovered from those drought declines that we've seen since 2021, which is great news for you. Who are our biggest competitors in South and Southeast Asia? Presumably Australia is a big one, right? And are they holding market share primarily because of the decline in production that we've seen over the past couple of years here in the US? Or is it price? Is it a specific quality? What is it that makes them such a strong competitor?
Australia is they're just here. It's a 5-day sail into Indonesia, and we're 28 days. So that freight price is going to be a lot different. And actually, Indonesia is the majority of demand for wheat-based foods in that country is noodles. And so Australia actually bred their wheat classes to service that demand, that service their biggest market, as we did in the U.S. We serviced our biggest demand, which is ourselves. We like hamburger buns and loaf breads and things like this. So we did the same thing. I guess it's obvious that would happen. Australia has 25 million people, and Indonesia at 270 million. You're going to service that market. Australia has a very good noodle wheat. There's also an any wheat will do category of product. So when Australia has good crops, they can service those, or it can be soft white, and that's going to be price sensitive. But to be honest with you, with the price part, we don't have anything to do with, and if we're selling on price, you don't need us, right? The Idaho wheat farmer, if you're going to sell low price wheat, then U.S. wheat doesn't have a role. But where we do have a role is to prove the benefit of using our wheat classes for specific products. Now, back to your question, though, the main competitor of Australia, when we were making our giant increases in the region, they were having successive droughts. Now, we hope that the U.S. is not on that same trend. It looks dry again this year, which is not great, but we remain optimistic we'll see some rains over the winter. But Australia saw some declines, and so that opened the door for us, but it also gave us some opportunities to show that we can excel in some other categories. So we had that opportunity, we captured it, and we are holding on to some of that market share. Now, the last couple of years, Australia's seen bumper crop. I think it was 3 consecutive bumper crops that you could call it, and they don't look so bad right now. But still to come, if they get, the coming months, 2 months are pretty important for them as far as how they will do. But Australia will have a good sized crop and will be competing. But again, we've kind of conceded that noodle market to them because frankly, hard white wheat would be our main competitor into that, and we just lack it. So we let them have the noodle market, and we capture the other ones. Canada takes way too much of the spring wheat market out here, but they're giant. They have, imagine all of the country where we grow hard red winter, from Texas to Montana, they grow hard red spring, or their version of it, CWRS, right? Canadian Western Red Spring. So they have a giant growing area. They're going to have pockets of good and bad, and they're growing a lot of it. So they're very competitive. It's a very, in my opinion, very different product, and we can sell the superior strength of U.S. hard red spring over CWRS into this market. But CWRS is very strong into Indonesia. Indonesia, the biggest market for Canadian wheat now, consistently. So I would say Australia, Canada are certainly our 2 biggest competitors, especially because they compete kind of head to head with some of our classes. Then, of course, the rise of Russia and the Black Sea region, which would include the European Union country of Romania. Those Black Sea origin producers are extremely strong, but frankly, they don't have strong, let's say, end product functionality like U.S. wheat classes do. They're kind of an any wheat will do category. So again, it's going to be only price for them, and that's going to be also dependent on weather and whatnot to see how their price reacts. So I think at the end of the day, U.S. wheat has huge opportunities based a lot on how well we do on weather and based on how everybody else does. But at least our functionality can be easily discussed and proven. I don't know if that answers your question. Long answer to a short question.
No, that did answer. You also mentioned a strong market share in the Philippines.
Extremely strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Do consumers know that they're eating U.S. wheat
Well,
when they buy those products?
Right. Well, that's what our focus of one of the focuses of our media campaigns that we've been running there for, gosh, I want to say, I think we're getting on to 20 years of a media campaign there. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. And it's and one of the focuses is telling people that, yeah, it does come from the U.S. And what does that mean to you? Does it have any does it make you consume more knowing this? And we've done surveys, of course, and they have shown that there is a proclivity to consuming more knowing that they trust that origin. We have the perception of the U.S. and the Philippines quite good. People think nice things when they think of U.S. origin. The same is actually true for Vietnam and Thailand. And the opposite's kind of true for Indonesia and Malaysia. So we have to, look at every market individually and how we try to communicate with the consumers in each place to try to increase that demand. But yes, at the end of the day, I'd say the Philippines is the perception of U.S. products is very good, and that has only helped our market share. But nonetheless, we still have to prove it every year. They are not doing it just because it has, every kernel of wheat has U.S. wheat stamped on it. We don't do that, and it's you have to prove it through not only price, but of course superior performance, and we've done it. When we're priced well above our competitors, we're still making these giant sales out there. So I think it's a lot to be said again for that historic investment the U.S. wheat farmers made.
U.S. wheat really focuses on their quality, the quality of the wheat. So, it makes sense that they're happy with the end product.
Has to be. If they're not, you saw all of those bakers there a couple of years ago, and they're not going to they're not going to make a decision again just because it has U.S. wheat stamped on the kernel. It's got to really show up in their products, because especially if they're going to pay more, which they do. The miller pays more, but they also demand it of the baker, and the bakers are all, well, not all, I wish all, many bakers are demanding that their flour be milled from U.S. wheat, and they're saying we will pay more because they perform better in our operations. That's a huge focus for us, for sure.
What is our biggest, oh, sorry, Ryan. What is our biggest opportunity in South and Southeast Asia as wheat producers? And maybe a challenge.
Biggest opportunity and biggest challenge, huh? I guess again, rewinding a bit, see above our opportunities in the combo cargoes that we see as this SAF becomes so important in the U.S. Where, I mean, just like ethanol, we're not going back on that. That's here to stay. So does that get us into these? I think we become more of an ingredient that is demanded instead of a commodity. So as we get into those, into that ingredient environment ecosphere, then how do we market that product into smaller chunks into the various markets? I think that's an opportunity. And again, with GM wheat, how do we turn that? You know, it's long been, you know, this is going to kill the market kind of concept, a negative, cynical view of it. How do we turn that into the positive side and say, look, now we're going to become more consistent. We can have some consumer-focused traits in there. And again, a more affordable product. I think that's going to be good. And then the flip side with the challenge, I would also say the GM wheat also going to be our biggest challenge. You know, it's these countries are no different than the U.S. You get one legislator in place or one Supreme Court judge in place, and they will just shut it all down in a minute. Just say no more GM as of today. That's happened, and it's happened several times. And so you have millions of dollars of product on the ocean coming in, and then in some you know, random decision maker makes a random decision. So how can we possibly make it smooth that out? And I think that's going to be a huge challenge for us. I mean, always, you know, sanitary, phytosanitary barriers to trade. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody. You know, people block us based on a fumigation standard or a weed seed that we get. Those are always in the air and you know, they'll probably bore everybody that's listening to this in a second. But that literally what keeps us up at night. And this just adds another one of those to us. But how can we manage that efficiently and successfully? I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. So biggest opportunity, biggest challenge, same answer.
That was similar to the question I had, Joe. I was going to talk about the possibility of emerging markets and where you're seeing potential growth in the area. So,
no, I think the rising incomes here are going to be very helpful for us moving forward. I don't know any region that's growing faster, economically speaking and population wise. I think I don't know if you want to call it the downfall of China, but as China kind of, as industries moving kind of out of China, they're moving out here. So all of that just means continued growth of the middle class and continued consumption of products where we really stand out. And really, I think our organization, there are not too many like us in the world that can go out and show these end product manufacturers the benefits of using our products.
It's also exciting that with the economic growth, we're seeing a lot of population growth as well, because throughout Asia, you frequently think of a declining population, an aging population, and that's not the case in South and Southeast Asia.
Absolutely, absolutely. With the single outlier of Thailand that has had a long history of family planning, everyone else is just kind of continuing to grow at astronomical rates, which is, at least in the old economic model, really good. I don't know what we're going to, I don't know how this is all going to change as all of the countries in Europe and China, everybody's getting old, you know, how that's going to evolve, but I guess it will need to, but at least for now, these rising populations are kind of helping the economic growth. So that's where we see our future. I think U.S. wheat, this region will continue to grow for U.S. wheat sales in decades to come.
All right. Well, that's good news. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. We've hit our 30-minute mark, so we don't want to keep you from the rest of your day, but thank you for starting your day with us today. And for all of you Idaho wheat producers who are watching this or listening to this after the fact, you've heard it right from the source that our wheat is still in high demand, and hard white would also be in demand if we had enough of it to export, right? And the container situation figured out to make that happen. So stuff for us to work on for sure to meet those trends in that region. So thank you so much, Joe.
Thank
Please
you guys.
join us next time for our next episode of From the Field. And Joe, if you have any last words you want to leave us with.
No, thank you for all you do. Thanks for receiving our teams. It's very kind of you. Thanks to Clark Hamilton. I guess he's our chairman this year. It's been great knowing him, getting to know Idaho Wheat, Joe Anderson up north, Bill Flory. Gosh, everybody we see up there has just been, our teams are so well received. Your hospitality is so appreciated. And I just always look forward to the next time we're through. So thanks to you two for all you do to receive our teams too. And we look forward to continuing our good work for you.
Thank you so much. We love to have them. And that hospitality was definitely reciprocated when Corey and Jamie Kress and I visited Singapore 2 years ago now, I guess, with the
Governor Little. Yeah. It was great to have the high-ranking officials out. We got to meet with some high-ranking officials. I don't get to meet here if I don't have a governor with me. So it was exciting for all of us.
Yeah, that was a good time. So thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do for us.